Hey, how are you? Welcome back to Red Shoes Diary. I hope that you can tell them, well, the weather's turned back off. It's been raining, wet, and cool, nasty, whatever you say for the past, I guess, 3 or 4 days, it seems like. I'm thinking they're supposed to move out today, but who knows? Mother Nature's got her own attitude and her own thoughts, so she'll do as she pleases. I hope you've had a great week. Hope you're feeling fat and sassy. I hope that life has treated you well. That you've been got some good surprises, some good laughs. Been blessed this week as always. Had a good week. Been able to, as young lady got saved at church the other day, which was a good blessing. And her papa was there when that happened. And plumb tickled about that. Answer prayers. Friends of mine whose their wives had some health issues, scares, you want to say, had to go to the hospital this week. They're on the mend, doing better. Definitely answer prayers on them. Thankful for that. Thankful to see they're on the mend, and definitely thankful to the good Lord for those answered prayers. Other family members we've been praying for, so thankful for all that. And I had a friend to ask this week, well, I guess last week technically. We got to talk about something. She's like, well, do you plan this out? You write something down, or this just come to your mind? This is what you just go speak on? And I told her, I said, things during the week hits me. Maybe it might be like I said, the young lady, getting saved at church. It might be that granddaughter doing something, or something I read in the Bible, or something I've seen on TV, or who knows, something clicks, something gets on my mind to think about or talk about. There's times I'm sure I am probably repeat myself on stuff. And like I told her, I said, once I do these, I never go back and look at the videos. Lots of times when you do, it's sort of like if you never listen to your voice recorded, first time you hear your voice, and you hear the recording of your voice, you're like, do I really sound like that? Yeah, because I guess maybe you hear it differently. You mind processes it differently the way your voice sounds, or maybe because it's coming through a speaker and stuff, you're actually hearing it processing. I don't know. So you do sound different to yourself. Plus, sometimes I look at my man. You look like a goofball, man. What are you doing? But I figure it's okay. Good Lord's got that under control. But I never go back and listen to them. I never watch them. Every now and then I might look to see like a title one. It might recall something I posted. And, I don't, some story I've told about my family, my life. I try not to repeat them. Mostly, lots of times it's just, things that's hit me, things that popped in my head. Simple things, or things that make you think, I ain't called to preach. I ain't called to sing. I'm a backup singer. I'm one of the people at the very back of the church who sings, but not really loud. But still, I do speak up every now and then at church stuff when they ask questions, different things. Try to, participate. I guess what's called. Older gentleman this past Sunday, opened the church up that morning. At least the kids go to Sunday school. I don't know how your church does it. Down there is how it is. And he's like, well, I know it's a little early, but he got to talk about, Christmas and how we celebrate it, and where he waited, and how I believe it's Herod took and had all the, male children 2 years below killed, and how he got that reference in frame, and about the wise man's journey, how long it took them to get to each place, and I never really thought about it, but it did make sense. But, sometimes it's simple things like that. That wasn't, he just was asked. He got up and got talking about it. He said, well, this is something, thing. Sometimes that's some of the greatest lessons you learn. You might learn from people is just something's on their mind, something they share might get you to thinking. And maybe that's the reason I do this. Maybe things I talk about or share, or if I can get you thinking about it, a lot of the insanity of my life, I'm here just because, grace of the good Lord. Mama's, daddy's praying, what it amounts to. Ain't no two ways about it. I know it. So I figure there's stuff I'm not still here to do. Maybe I'll stumble and fall lots of times, but I try to get back up, keep on doing it. I seen a thing. It was a deal asking. Was it like in the last 20 years? What are some of the things, maybe whatever, that you've seen are gone that people don't have no more? That's lost it. A lot of them was talking about maybe like old phones, stuff like that, dial-up phones, push-button phones, simple, things like that, home phones, dial-up computers. Some was talking about manners. We've lost a lot of that. I think people not raising their children, in that way, manners. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. Somebody does something for you, just a simple thank you, or a lot of you kids, don't know what those words mean, but uh, if you're young and nobody around you is showing you these things or teaching you, you know, you don't know them. That's simple as it is. You might be a very well reader, but if you never went to sit in a math class, you might not, nobody ever taught you math, you might not know math. And it's sort of like the Bible. Try and read the Bible, learn from it, people talking to you and helping you. But there's passages in the Bible talk about about men, how they conduct themselves, what they supposed to work and do. It talks about women, how they should conduct themselves, how the older women should help the younger ones, just like the older men help the younger men. You know, uh, Modesty. A lot of that's gone. Way we grew up in church, like going to church stuff. Most women wore, your dresses, at least below your knees and stuff. They wore, men, they wore their, you know, usually their pants and usually a button up shirt lots of times. There wasn't many pullovers. You didn't see many pullovers when I was growing up. And, Easter, you dressed up, you had Easter outfits. We, growing up, we had Sunday clothes. Them's our nicest clothes or shoes. And normally, whatever shoes and stuff we got at Easter, little hard black little shoes, we wore them till, toes come out the end, I guess. And you had your nice little pants and your nice little shirts, and you got them dirty, it wasn't going to end well for you. But there was a decor to that about how we conduct ourselves. We was in church, how you supposed to conduct yourselves, and how you dressed, like I said about the modesty stuff. We have gotten away from that, and it's sad. I mean, it's similar. Even if you go, I have noticed the last few years though, I've seen more like young folks when you go, at least here in the little town where I live at. Maybe not out in the world, it ain't. But, younger people open the door for you, come on through here, respect you and like holding the door for people, whether it's male, female, and people go, hey, thank you. Out of respect. It's not that they can't do it yourself, it's just a sign of respect. A lot of that has been missing, I think, the last few years. Everybody's just got so far twisted up in themselves, and everybody gets so busy looking online, they get to look at all this insanity, especially a lot of celebrities, what they're wearing. Oh, that is so cute. And, call it dental floss, where you want to call it. They ain't wearing a whole lot, but, there's a time and place for all that stuff, but people's just, take it into their everyday life everywhere they're going, and it's a sad, sad deal. That is, I always was taught being that type of person where you conduct yourself and you, whether you, modesty, whether you drill, wait, even a man conduct yourself as a young man, even if you're a boy, you still conduct yourself that way. Being humble, and that was respected. That was a part of that level of you knowing that you was becoming a man, just like a young woman. What she did, way she dressed, way she acted, that was a sign of becoming a young woman. And a lot of this is taught by your parents, by your elders, grandparents, great aunts, uncles. It doesn't matter, or the people you go to church with, people you associate with. You know that was important, and they don't use that now as a scale. That's irrelevant. You know, too bad that like I'm pouring on the phone here, but a lot of that they're so busy into that all the social media. That's what they think is important, whether it's likes or getting people to talk about it, DMing them, whatever, all the everything interaction. Half them people they don't even know, but that gives them validation for the way they act and conduct themselves, and that's a sad way of society anymore, in my opinion. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who argue that point. I respect that. We can still disagree and agree to disagree and still love one another. I see a lot of that goes on. People want to argue, fuss, fight over a lot of that stuff, and turn families against families, loved ones against loved ones. Whole husband, wives, kids just destroyed over a lot of that stuff that's going on. It's a sad, sad affair. But I also noticed here in the last few months, really, I think part of it, since like Charlie Kirk and stuff, where he was assassinated. You see more. I've seen on, especially on TV. I'm not much in sports, never have been. I'm sort of like if I ain't playing, I ain't much into watching. But there's some of them I do watch, and I noticed here recently, like on college football and stuff. I've noticed a lot more of your players when they pan around, they're on the field, whatever. They have like Bible verses on their face. You see a lot of them getting together and pray before the game. Then a lot of times after game, they're going to the maybe to the end zones. But then you see a lot of times these opposing teams are all coming together and getting together and praying together after after the game. I was listening to a young man, forget who he plays for, talk about how he got started in it, and now year before people didn't talk about it. He said, and if you went and go to end zone maybe and pray after the thing, people go by and say something before the game. He said now people are joining us, and he said it means a lot. It's like people are young people. Whether we like it or not, folks, young people are your church. Us older ones are at the age of phasing out. I mean, death comes to all of us. That's reality. So for the church to keep going, you got to have these young people that's involved in it, that's trying to do their best, trying to live right, trying to be conservative and do the right thing and stand up for what they believe in, Christ and stuff. And I see that a lot more in a lot of these athletes and stuff. Young athletes are, one I watched, I don't know where he just scored a touchdown, whatever it was. And she said, asked about that play, blah, blah, blah. And the young man just said, well, first and foremost, I want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because I wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for him. I mean, before he answered anything, he proclaimed who he was, that what he believed in. And I think it's very important. And it's pretty awesome to see that you got young people that's turning and looking and trying, And the thing about it is, us older folks, called the elders, whatever you want to say, need to encourage them. If you're a man and you watching this, you got young men that's maybe trying to go to church, won't go to church, well, go with them. I hear all the time about your mother church. Well, join the mother church, which is God's. Get saved. If you can't find a church right off that sets your whatever. If you have a fallout at a different church, go somewhere else. Find where you feel like God sends you, where you believe in. You got young folks needing to go to the church or needs encouragement. You see them, encourage them. Hey, I'm glad you're here. Come back. It don't matter what church you're going to, folks, in that matter. I don't reckon I've ever read nowhere in the Bible he's got us separated up there between the Pentecostals, the Baptists, the Methodists, Holiness. I ain't never seen no separation. He says he's going to come back and retrieve us. That ain't exact word, but you know what I mean. I don't mean to offend nobody by not saying the biblical words. Anyway, just old man doing a little blue collar talking about the good Lord and thankful for him. I hope that, wherever you at, wherever you doing, whatever the good Lord lays on you, whether it's at work, maybe on the side of the road, maybe out here in Walmart, you never know. Might say good little words to somebody. Might help them a little bit. Maybe you just tell them you're going to pray for them. Or maybe you just tell them, if you're at church, you see a new person come in, welcome them. Tell them, hey, come back. We'd like to see you again. Sometimes the simplest words that you can use. Thank you. I appreciate it. Come on in. The Lord's here. The Lord's always here, folks. I'll pray for you. If something I do, let me know. I'll try to help you. Sometimes the greatest gift, though, you'll ever do for somebody is pray for them. That might be what they need worse than anything you never do, folks. Anyway, as always, I guess I've run my mouth long enough. Hope I ain't offended you so quick that you done kicked it off. If you did, you did. Maybe you'll come back to it one day. If you don't, well, there's a reason for that. And hopefully, see, maybe the weather will change by next Wednesday. Who knows? It'll be 80 and sun out next week. I think it's in the 50s and rain and drizzling out there now. It's been like it last few days, about 60, about the high. So, been loafing. Ain't done a whole lot. Anyway, everybody, wherever you're at, wherever you're doing, I hope you have a great week. Please take time to talk to your good Lord. Try to read your Bible. Or if you ain't good at reading it, there is a lot of apps you can find on the phone that they'll read it out to you. Give you a passage and he'll read it to you. And, I'm a King James version, King James version, but people use different ones. You just have to decide which one's best for you, to ask the Lord to help you understand it. Give you a little wisdom so you'll understand it, I guess. Anyway, folks, wherever you at, whatever you do, have a great week. Hope you have a lot of answered prayers. Hope you find peace and love. Hope you find a good table to sit down at and have a large, large meal. Because that helps a lot sometimes. Anyway, may the good Lord take a liking to you, but not too soon. And as always, Alston.